This is GKW. Welcome to another edition of Good Karma Wrestling. I'm Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee, and we're back to full strength this week. With me, we've got from ESPN West Palm, Brian Rowitz, and back from ESPN 1000 in Chicago, he is Jonathan Hood. What's up, Hood?
Hi, Gabe.
Last week, bud. It was kind of a weird week in wrestling. We had an early, premium live event for WWE on Saturday. No Collision on Saturday night. Little jumbled all over the place, but still lots of fun things happening in the world of professional wrestling. So where we start, quite possibly the top two storylines from each of the top two companies in the world of professional wrestling, the Bloodline and the Elites. Bloodline continuing to add members, Elite continuing to run roughshod over everybody in AEW. And that brings us to this. Which storyline are you more invested in as a fan right now? Bloodline or the Elite?
Boy, this is a tough one. The one thing, though, for the Bloodline, they don't have the open of the show like the Elite does. If anyone watched AEW Dynamite from Edmonton, it was just the Elite in the open. I said, anybody else wrestle for the company besides the Elite? That's some NWO stuff right there that we saw. But it's like what we talked about, guys, when it comes to the Bloodline. We knew more Polynesian wrestlers were coming. The idea that you have Gorillas of Destiny now from New Japan, that's now a part of the WWE, part of this storyline, and a very afraid, a very scared Paul Heyman, not knowing what to do, led by Solo Sikoa. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing is you have all these different elements right now when it comes to the Bloodline that, to me, the reason I go Elite is because I feel like we get more of a payoff. We find out last night on Dynamite we have Anarchy in the Arena coming out in a couple weeks in Vegas. Team AEW, FTR, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston. Sign me up for those four any day of the week. And you're going to get that sort of payoff, and there'll still be more Elite stuff. The Bloodline right now, I feel like they're just treading water where their ultimate payoff is new versus old Bloodline. I don't even know what to call them. But that, I feel like, is so far down the road because we don't know when Roman shows back up.
I mean, but that's the big issue, I think, with both of these storylines. Like, if I'm going to start with the, okay, what's the payoff of all of this going to ultimately be? It's, okay, I don't know when Kenny, because it seems like Kenny's the one who's going to have to be the one that puts an end to everything for the Elite, right? And Kenny's just getting his surgery now. Like, is Kenny going to be available for Wembley? Is he going to be available for World's End at the end of the year? Like, we have no idea. So Roman's going to be back sooner than that. And it seems like they're doing a better edition of Bloodline Civil War than Bloodline Civil War from last year, where they just had the Usos break off, then the Usos split up, and then Jimmy just kind of ends back up with the Bloodline because why not? This seems like a better version of Bloodline Civil War. And as they continue to add members of the Bloodline, which we believe there is still at least one more that is going to be showing up here at some point, like, I'm intrigued. Okay, when's he going to show up? What's that going to look like? They continue to make Solo look so strong. I mean, I'm assuming that there's going to be another member added to the Elite, maybe. And that's how they end up going over. Anarchy of the Arena coming up at the end of the month in Double or Nothing. So I think they're going to be continuing to add to there. I'm a little more intrigued, I guess, with Bloodline right now, just because, okay, how are the Usos going to be folded back into it? How is Jacob Fatu going to be folded back into this? I am pleasantly surprised that they have been able to keep the Bloodline as relevant as they have, especially with, okay, Roman's no longer the champion. They don't have any of the gold right now, yet they're sitting there still with one of the top storylines going in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I find it interesting as well because I feel like there's even more Polynesian wrestlers coming.
Right.
It's what we talked about for a while now. Now, here we are. And so I just think that seems like it's more interesting to me because the Elite is starting to cook. I think that just having Jack Perry there because of the intrigue of Jack Perry being there, part of the Elite, is interesting to me, Brian. But I'd like to know what's the next step. Here's what we know about the Elite. They can't wrestle Tony Khan. Tony Khan won't be there to wrestle. But now there's an NWO vibe with the Elite because now the true AEW wrestlers will have to take on the Elite. And so it's going to be the Elite who have power and also can wrestle against AEW's roster. So I think that's interesting, but I'm leaning Bloodline because I think this is what we've been looking forward to for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing. You talk about the payoff, and, we say Anarchy in the Arena. Bryan Danielson being in the match means Bryan Danielson probably gets pinned, but then you have Dax there also. So you have two guys that like to get pinned. So now you got to figure out who's going to take the fall, or do they both take it at the same time?
Both at the same time. I mean, if
Okay.
we're going to be realistic about this, it's going to have to be a both at the same time situation. I mean, it's Anarchy in the Arena. You can do whatever you want. Danielson can be getting pinned over here, while Dax is getting pinned on a completely different side of the arena. Like,
All right, I'm glad we cleared that up. I'm sure there'll be some rock, paper, scissors, and some coin flip in the back to just figure out who ultimately takes the pinfall at Double or Nothing. But that's the point of the Tony Khan thing, is like, where is the payoff and where is the comeuppance for some of these guys? Kenny coming back will be great. Kenny versus Okada will be great. We can always say that. But I just feel like there's some more intrigue and there's some other things you can do. And then Jack Perry continuing to elevate him to where ultimately I think he has some singles gold. I think there's more possibilities to go right now when it comes to the Elite.
Yeah, because who else is going to step up for AEW, right? Like after Team AEW presumably loses at the pay-per-view, who's going to step up and who else is going to represent AEW? I'm actually surprised that, and maybe they have different plans for Mox, but given how he was the big reveal at the first Double or Nothing show when he showed up, and granted he was opposed to Kenny Omega at that point. I don't know if they have a different plan with him since he's the New Japan champion currently right now.
IWGP, there you go.
IWGP, there we go. Since he's the current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, I don't know if they're going to have him defend that at Double or Nothing, or if he was going to be doing something else. I mean, storyline-wise, it still makes sense after Danielson and Eddie had their feud, and they respect each other once again. So it makes sense that they would still be on the same page. I just thought that maybe Mox would fold back into that because Mox has been Mr. AEW. Anytime they need John Moxley or anytime they need someone to step up, here's Mox. But maybe that comes further down the line, right? Maybe Mox ends up being part of a team that ultimately puts Team AEW over the top. I'm not sure. So it does seem like the possibilities are more with, I mean, I think the point is both these things are cooking right now. Both
100%.
these things are really fun. There's more possibilities with the Elite because, are people going to be added to the Elite and who's stepping up? Whereas the Bloodline is very much, okay, who's going to be involved with the Bloodline? Because I thought that maybe Randy Orton and Kevin Owens weren't quite done with the Bloodline yet, but Randy Orton's in the King of the Ring tournament. Right? So, okay. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow night on SmackDown, but it kind of seems like, Randy's now in the King of the Ring tournament. He's got to worry about that. Can't really worry about the Bloodline. Maybe he ends up facing Tama Tonga somewhere down the line. But the Bloodline is very contained to itself, whereas the Elite possibilities are endless because it can stretch out for the entire roster.
Right. But that's the thing with the Bloodline. It's like when we ultimately get that Civil War, we're still 3 months away, SummerSlam in Cleveland. Like, it's not going to happen at Clash at the Castle. It's not going to happen in Saudi in a few weeks. Like, we're still a while away from that payoff. And I don't think Anarchy the Arena is the payoff of the Elite story. But with Bloodline, like I said, I just feel like we're just sort of treading water. It's just waiting for Roman. And there were rumors out there. I'll admit I did not start them. Sammy possibly rejoining the other Bloodline. Then you got me. If Sammy somehow reunites with the Usos, now we're cooking.
The what?
Yeah.
Usos. Yeah. Like plural oos. No.
Are you having a series of small strokes? What's that? The oos what?
The plural of oos. No? Like oos. Honorary oos. Now you have two ooses. Ooses.
Okay.
No?
I don't. Okay.
The Usai?
Usai? All right. Fine.
The Usai. More t-shirts out there.
Right.
More t-shirts.
That's all we're trying to do.
But ultimately, Gabe, you know what we're waiting for? We're waiting for what you guys laid out with SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Reigns and the Usos against Bloodline 2.0. That's what we're waiting for here. That's what's going. I think that's going to happen. That might be the matchup in Cleveland in SummerSlam.
Do we get The Rock for that?
The Rock is busy with the WWE Championship at that time.
Well, okay. See, that's interesting. Just because you're going to need, as much as we just wanted to make fun of Brian for that, again, if Jacob Fatu shows up as expected before SummerSlam, they're then going to have 4. They're going to have They're going to have 4 on the one side, and if you just have the Usos and Roman, you're going to need a 4th on the other side.
There's one honorary Us in that company. Just saying. It's laid out for him.
Just anything to get Sami Zayn on the card. What? I mean, is that enough?
He's champ, man.
Okay, he's Intercontinental champion. Can he just defend the title? Does he have to just glom on to this bloodline story?
That's an honorary Us. He's the third brother. Remember he was in the picture with Rikishi and the Usos?
Plus, we literally just did the brand split, man. He's over on Raw. Can we at least pretend that means something for a month?
So is Jay. Jay's on Raw, right?
Yeah,
I'm never
Jay
confident
is on
in
Raw.
that. Yeah, Jay's on Raw.
Jay is on Raw. It's a good call.
All right.
That's a good call. Damn it.
And of course, it's WWE. That doesn't matter.
Right.
It does not matter. So I guess we're leaning Bloodline for this right now because the Elite's still new and fresh. By the way, I love that Jack Perry's part of this. I love it. It's something that we anticipated, that he was away. He was in New Japan. I saw him at Windy City Riot in New Japan, and then now he's part of this. He's a badass. I enjoy it. Now I want to see how that develops even more so, because I'm sure there's some AEW talent, just like the old NWO, feels like, I'm not getting over in AEW. I'm going to be part of this. I'm going to be part of the EVPs. The NWA parallel, guys, is that you remember the NWO early. Hulk Hogan had influence, as we come to find out, and also Kevin Nash at one point was a booker. So they had, and also Eric Bischoff ran the company. He also was NWO. That's the parallel of the EVPs versus what the NWO was when they had management in the group. Very similar.
But if we play it out that way, like, does Darby ultimately play that Sting role? If he's not getting hit by buses or climbing Mount Everest, like, does he pop up and then ultimately he's the guy?
I would love to see the dead corpse of of Darby Allin trying to help this situation. Yes.
Times Square's dangerous.
Again, I still lean towards Mox being that guy, of being ultimate Mr. AEW, because he just continues to step up anytime AEW is needed someone. So I look at him, because that Sting role, like, Sting was already pretty established. Yes, he tweaked his character and became the most iconic version of Sting. But Sting had already, was well established within WCW. So I don't know if you necessarily need, not to say that Darby isn't, but Darby hasn't been a world champ, 3 times over the way that Mox has within AEW. So I look at maybe Mox being that guy that kind of steps up. But again, the ultimate guy that steps up and is going to be leading that charge, that ultimately puts Team AEW over the Elite/Team EVP, is Kenny Omega. We just don't know when that's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, just the way that it was all laid out last week. We've criticized AEW in the past about stories. What a great story. It's weird that Kenny Omega says, I'm not a very good mic guy. You're not? He captivated the entire audience, right? It got quiet. They're like, oh my God. You mean so one little move, shot to the stomach, and you could die? Oh, wow. And then he takes punishment. By the way, he takes off the shirt and he looks better than he did before. Like, he just looks like the guy's going to die. He looks fine, thank you. For a guy that's with one shot is going to die, he looked great when he took the shirt off, did he not?
Well, as we noted last week, like, Kenny Omega got all my respect because, hey, one little bump and he could die. But you know what? I'm willing to risk it all for a Snapdragon suplex. I'll put it all on the line for one more Snapdragon.
I mean, that story was so captivating. When the crowd's quiet, it's like, wow. I mean, that's really life and death. And then, of course, what happens with EVP. So that's starting to heat up. I'm very intrigued for a company that's always about supercards. They're slowing it down, telling the great story. Hopefully it pays off.
Yeah, like last night felt like there wasn't a ton of like amazing wrestling. Like it just felt like it was all storyline based, which was weird for them.
Like, Raw may have had more wrestling than Dynamite. I don't know what's going on.
That makes no sense.
Like, they were jamming out the King of the Ring tournament matches, which again, I'm cool with. It was just kind of like a bizarro world of wrestling where Raw is just match heavy, not a ton of storylines. Yes, they sprinkled some of the story stuff in there because it's still a 3-hour show, but you had match heavy Raw versus story heavy Dynamite. I don't know what to make of it.
Well, 2024.
Well, Gabe, let's monitor that very closely on this Triple H regime. No fart jokes and no sexual innuendo. You got wrestling on that show. Okay. Now, all the three of us like it, but sometimes we like to have a little bit of a break, right? Where you tell a story. If the funniest thing you have on there is R-Truth, is that really a good show?
Yeah. Dan Hurley, not exactly Mr. Comedy.
Look, it's tough. It's tough to be funnier than R-Truth in professional wrestling in 2024.
But
that man still has me in the palm of his hand.
But if that's all you got, okay. Just remember, this is Triple H now. He likes his wrestling. Nothing wrong with it. I got no problem with it. But just remember, like, we're used to the let-up from the WWE, and you got a lot of that under Vince. Let's just watch how this works.
That's fair.
We move on to our other top 3 stories in the world of professional wrestling. We like to call it the 3 count here on GKW. Brian, what's number 1 this week?
Part of that heavy wrestling on Monday was the start of the King and Queen of the Ring, which will culminate May 25th in Saudi Arabia. So get the pencils out. Fantasy book the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments.
Now you really get to fantasy book the SmackDown matches because we don't know what they're going to be starting tomorrow night. The women's side, they've announced the men's side, and they've already had to make a tweak, much like on the men's side and Raw, with some injuries because Bobby Lashley not cleared to compete. So he is not going to be wrestling in the King of the Ring anymore. He is being replaced by a stablemate in Angelo Dawkins, whereas the women's matches have yet to be announced. So taking a look at let's just start with the Raw men's side of things. There's no way Gunther's losing before the final, right? Like Gunther's cruising his way to the final.
Agreed.
Yes, but does he need to be King of the Ring? We know what the King of the Ring is supposed to be. The next person that's getting over. That's a tradition of the King of the Ring. So why can't the King of the Ring be Chad Gable?
Well, he's not in the tournament.
Shouldn't he be?
Yeah, probably.
Look, you're preaching. Makes sense to me. Yes. Should he be? Yes. Yes, he should be, but he's not. So Gunther is there, I think, on the Raw side of things. Like, it just doesn't – I think you could have made a case for Drew McIntyre, but once McIntyre was out of the tournament, like, it just didn't make a ton of sense. So on the SmackDown side of things, I think the injury replacements – almost makes it clear, especially with the Bloodline. Like, are we getting a Tama Tonga versus Gunther final in Saudi Arabia?
What does the Crown Prince want? I think the Crown Prince wants Gunther. Don't you think?
Those are 2 heels in the finals there?
I mean, again, this is why we ignore this pay-per-view, the 3 of us. Right? We're supposed to pretend like it doesn't happen. And ultimately, the King of the Ring, is this person next for the WWE Championship? Either one of the titles?
They just got a crown.
Okay.
Look, I mean, the last king and queens of the ring. All right, the last time they did this, and I understand it was Vince, and it was a gimmick that they did not go to for any sort of consistency, right? Like, it used to be consistent back in the 90s, early 2000s. Then it's been pretty inconsistent. The last 2, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last King of the Ring was Xavier Woods, and the Queen of the Ring was Selena Vega.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that didn't really result in championship gold singles for either one of them.
She got an opportunity in Puerto Rico?
Years later, because she's has Puerto Rican heritage. Yes, years later, because they were in Puerto Rico.
The fine print, Gabe. All right, it said win the tournament, and years later, when we're in your home country, you get a title shot. There's a lot to put in the graphic.
Different time, pal. Any Puerto Ricans on the card? Zelina, there you are. Different time.
So that's what I'm saying. I have no idea what King and Queen of the Ring means under Triple H. I have no idea if this is going to be like when Stone Cold won King of the Ring, or if it's going to be like when Xavier Woods won King of the Ring. Have no idea, because that is a wide range of what this could actually end up meaning.
Look, I don't know either, Gabe, but I'm just going to guess. I'll just say, because it's the traditionalist Triple H, that the person that wins the King of the Ring in particular will be the next guy to get the Intercontinental title match, or a match against, for the world title. Maybe not Cody's championship, but because that's the tradition. And I think that's why I brought it back, to be able to push somebody. And I look at this list and, like, King LA Knight, that work for you?
No, that was 3 years ago, by the way. I just looked it up. When Woods won and Zelina won, 2021 is when we last saw this.
Baron Corbin's in this too, right?
Yeah, he's
Former
a
winner.
sacrificial lamb.
2019
God,
winner.
that's right. He is a former winner. Oh my God.
Yep.
King Carmelo.
This tournament really used to mean nothing.
Huh?
King Carmelo Hayes.
I would listen to that.
It's the next person.
Yes.
He already took on Cody Rhodes, and so good for him, by the way, to go right to the top. Doesn't matter if he won or lost. He just need to have a good showing. And so I think it's about not a veteran. It's about what's next. I'm thinking that if I'm making my odds, I'm going Escobar or Hayes.
Yeah.
If we're doing that, to me, then it's Gunther. Then Gunther's winning this whole thing because Gunther's the next guy.
But why not Dragunov then? If you're going to throw out the young guys.
Well, yeah, if you're going young, but Gunther's had. This is a way to get Gunther that world championship match, and I think you can put Gunther up against. Yes, is it heel versus heel? Maybe at that point, Damian Priest is a babyface because he's broken off from Judgment Day. Who knows? But it gives Gunther a direct line to the championship.
Gunther would just look ridiculous with a crown.
Sure, but I also don't see him losing.
Right.
That sounds like an old DQ finish to me to get him out of there.
I feel like I agree with Gabe. I think he wins it. If it's him versus Orton, that's a hell of a win for him. We know Orton's not going to win in that situation. And then, this is the next logical thing. Hey, you're not the IC champ, but now you can fight for the world title.
Gunther winning the championship. Oh, I'm sorry, winning the King of the Ring just doesn't make sense to me. Does he deserve it? Does he deserve his flowers? Yes. That long Intercontinental reign, which we've talked about, very impressive. But the King of the Ring just seems like that's a couple of steps below. It's supposed to be able to get you over. He's over.
Yeah, but that's the point. If he ends up losing in the tournament and it's below him, doesn't that knock him down a peg or two? Putting him in the tournament, to me, by putting him there, now he has to win. You didn't put him there, then that opens things up. But you put him there, so now this dude can't lose.
King Jey Uso?
Well, that's the thing. When it comes to Jey, and I think I put LA Knight in this category, can you say, hey, we're never giving you the world title. You guys are obviously over. Here's a crown that you have to carry around forever now.
If it's Jey, I am super concerned because he wasn't initially in this tournament.
That's fair.
He was literally an injury replacement on Monday.
Boy, you got a number of guys in this company, and we saw this in Leon France. They're completely over. Jey Uso.
Okay.
It's one of the best interests. Go ahead.
Whatever happened in France, we can't really take I have to recalibrate what over is now after what that crowd in France did. They were, I don't know what they were chanting half the time, but they were having a time, man. They were having a great time with every 2 count, with everything. I have to recalibrate in my head what a hot crowd is because the crowd on Monday night was fine. It generally speaking was fine, but it was the first crowd, the wrestling crowd we had seen since Leon France, and it seemed like it was dead, even though it really wasn't.
Is it on Puerto Rico's level yet?
I was going to ask, Puerto Rico or France? Go ahead, Gabe.
Puerto Rico.
Okay. If only there was a hometown guy. If only Rene Dupree was out there or something, then we could have seen if it touched Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico also got to bring in Bad Bunny, so that combination was pretty lethal.
I don't know. I just don't remember outside of Bad Bunny anybody's theme to be played 3 times like Randy Orton. They had the loop button going for Randy Orton. Find somebody in your life that loves Randy Orton, like the France crowd loves Randy Orton.
They knew the lyrics to every entrance song, every damn one.
The loop button was on. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton come out there, and it's like, wow. If that was 3 hours, I could have watched that for 3 hours. The love. Holy cow. Was there a match? For God's sakes, are we going to don't need it. Just
didn't need one.
The love. It was
just
amazing.
Continue to play entrances, and they would have been happy for 3 hours. Wow. It was fantastic. God bless him, man. It's so good.
So King Ilya Dragunov. Can he keep the thing on his head? He's so wild against the ropes and fighting air. He's punching clouds. I mean, he's amazing.
Look, yeah, but also he's
What?
he's setting a bad example for the children. Anybody who's out there wrestling without knee pads is a psychopath, and I don't know if we can trust them.
Yeah, so I got a great six-man. It's him and the Creed brothers.
And the Creeds
Great.
going out there with no knee pads.
Are we going to get Gunther and Dragunov wasted in the tournament? Or is Dragunov lose to Jey Uso whenever they face each other?
This is a good problem. I don't know the answer to that question. Like, I've given, again, I'm thinking about people that could need the King of the Ring underneath guys like a Carmelo Hayes. He's next. That's what the King of the Ring is for. But I don't know if he's going to get past Baron Corbin. I have no idea. It's actually
better.
Oh God! If his first match is against Cody, and then they have him lose to Baron Corbin for the first time of Baron being on Raw or SmackDown, and God knows how long, like just fire the man now.
Right.
Just release him.
Wish him his best in future endeavors.
Yeah, like let's at least put him over Baron.
I don't know. It's a tough one. And then on the women's side,
women's side to me is pretty easy. Even though they haven't announced it, like Tiffy's coming out of the SmackDown side, right? Like you have to put Tiffany Stratton, and she comes out, and they can do her versus Lyra Valkyria.
Fine with that.
If she's in it, yes, then I think that's the favorite. So Liv Morgan's not in this at all?
No. She's not on Raw.
Okay. Because that's what I'm talking about. Someone who should be a heel. And I'm very confused by Liv Morgan's character now. So you put out the number one woman on the roster, and she's still slapping hands with the fans like she's a babyface. I'm confused with that creative. She should be one of the hottest heels in the company now that Rhea Ripley's out. She's the one put her out. She should be booed all over the country.
But she had that moment where like she was standing back to back with Becky and then left her in the ring. Like that was heelish.
I need more. I need red hot heat. That's what I want. Because we've been talking about this for months on this show about Liv Morgan's character. Mm-hmm. If anybody could be queen of the ring and just be arrogant and say, I put out Rhea Ripley,
right?
That going until Rhea comes back should be her. But I don't guess that's not the direction.
Wow. This is super obvious to me. It's Tiffy time.
Yeah.
She would wear she's wearing that crown. She's going to do it great with pointing to her wrist. Like Tiffany Stratton as the queen of the ring just makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah.
Also got a great reaction in France, Tiffy time. It was kind of in broken French, but we
have to put a list. If we're putting together a list, it's people who didn't get a great reaction in France. All right, like
Karrion Kross. I think that's the list. That might be the end of the list.
Karrion Kross and AOP. Yeah, really get over in France. That's
everyone else.
Poor Ellering. He's just there for the paycheck.
Uh-huh.
Poor Paul.
Yeah, the women's side makes more sense. I can't make sense of whatever the brackets are on the men's side. What do we got at number 2 this week, Brian?
All right. Speaking of the WWE, Cody Rhodes successfully defended his title in France against AJ Styles. But as we look to the future, what do you want to see Cody do next when it comes to the title?
So I was scouring the SmackDown roster.
Uh-huh. There's not many heels there.
Woof.
Uh-huh.
Not really a lot of good options here.
No.
So the best I could come up with, and obviously this is still a ways away, but I think you could do something fun with Logan Paul leading up to SummerSlam.
That's 3 months away, Gabe.
Yeah, I know. So
is he going on the Roman schedule?
Reheat the Shinsuke feud. Apollo Crews, no. Cedric Alexander, Theory? No. Dragon Lee, no. I mean, I guess the only thing, like Bobby Lashley would make sense, but he's hurt right now. So when we're looking at people who could legitimately be a contender for the WWE Championship,
Giovanni Vinci,
it's only KO. Like if we're talking short term, if we're talking somebody who is going to challenge Cody and Cody is going to be wrestling in Saudi Arabia, like KO's about the lists, and that's it. Depending upon, unless you want to just feed Andrade to him. It's not a great heel roster right now.
Agreed.
So I'll step ahead and bring up a topic that I'm sure the Broads will come up with in a couple weeks. So I'll bring it up today. And that is Cody Rhodes' reign interesting when it's non-bloodline related? Because this whole thing with the lead up to Cody Rhodes and finishing the story was all bloodline related.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Roman, whether it is The Rock, Paul Heyman, all of this. The reason why they were interested in Cody Rhodes is because it was him alone against the bloodline, and he needed help. He needed Seth Rollins, and he needed to be able to have others to try to help him be able to finally finish the story. And we were thinking about this. We foreshadowed this. If you put the championship on Cody Rhodes, then what? It's kind of like his dad, like that chase of Ric Flair all over the South. He becomes the NWA champion. Hey, finally, Dusty wins the championship. Okay, so who are his opponents, right? The Horsemen, or it's Ric Flair again. So it's interesting to hear Cody Rhodes after his matchup against AJ Styles in France, the press conference. Someone asked him that question. Someone said, "Hey, Cody, what's next?" And he just thought about it for a second. He goes, that LA night is very interesting to me, right? And I don't know if that's storyline based or he just came at the top of his head. Usually Cody is just speaking off script, off the top of his head, just says stuff, right? And he said, that LA night is interesting. I'd like to be able to take on him. And I was thinking, well, you don't want to divide the audience this quickly of two baby faces. I don't know if the audience wants that, but I think it comes down to a few people. If you want Cody Rhodes to be interesting as heavyweight champion, I would say that's got to be bloodline related, or it might be Randy Orton. Because ultimately, you're just trying to build Cody Rhodes up to have banger matches leading into Cody versus The Rock in Cleveland for SummerSlam. AJ Styles is a great start, but now you've got to be able to just have banger matches and let him be able to tread water as champion leading into the big event in August.
Well, so I like the thought of Orton, but then they threw him in the King of the Ring tournament. So is he going to lose early in the King of the Ring tournament and then have to circle back and have only a couple of weeks to try to build up a feud? I would assume that they would start trying to build whatever's next for Cody starting tomorrow night.
But the question still stands. Is Cody as champion interesting to you when it's non-bloodline related?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's not yet, but I think that's part of like the poor roster management of like them not having great heels. I think the names you guys mentioned with KO and Orton, if you turn either of those guys heel, I will watch them and Cody for 2 months just to get us to SummerSlam. Like, I'm interested then.
Well,
everything else in the roster doesn't work.
But Orton, it feels like you could do something longer term with Orton because of the history of Randy and Cody from Cody's previous time with WWE. So you could do that for 2 months. But again, then you would have to start building this feud with Orton coming off of a loss in King of the Ring.
Then turn Owens heel. Like, I prefer heel KO anyway, as over as he is. Like, you need some heels right now, especially with the bloodline not there. You could do that for 2 months. Like, Owen knows who he is. And then that gets us to SummerSlam.
You know what the problem is with a lot of this that we're talking about, Brian, is it's a lot of, I respect you, let's wrestle.
Sure.
AJ Styles tried to be the biggest heel he could, and he wasn't even close. Right. All the cheers that he got in France, and he's supposed to be the heel, right? They're on stage doing a little press conference. It's just like, people are giving him the too sweet. He tried to be a heel. It didn't work. Kevin Owens the same way. Kevin Owens could turn this week, and the fans will still be into KO. Just fight KO, fight. Randy Orton, they're same thing. Randy Orton, oh, you're a heel? Yeah, but we still respect you. So it's a lot of I respect you matches.
They tried so hard with Styles, too. They changed his damn music. Yeah. Like, no, you know what? We're going to change his music. This man is a heel. Boo this man. Everyone's like, that music sucks. I wish he went back to his other one. But yeah, AJ Styles rules. Look how jacked he is.
You can finish the story, but then what? This is about it. This is no shot at Cody Rhodes at all.
Right.
This is what we've been talking about with the roster construction. If you don't have red hot heels that are non-bloodline related, then you get a lot of handshakes at, when the bell rings, here we go. A nice wrestling match. Okay. But you're just trying to tread water pretty much until you get to SummerSlam, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, Gabe, you said Logan Paul. Like, I'd say he's the second biggest heel on SmackDown behind the Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then if you go to third, it's Waller and Theory.
Waller.
No, come on, Bobby. Oh man, it is Waller in Theory, isn't it?
Yeah,
God bless America.
I can't even call Lashley a heel right now. Him, like those
They're
guys aren't heels.
Bobby Lashley's not a heel.
Right.
They tried. They
I
couldn't.
mean, that's what I'm saying. They tried. Like, I just
couldn't turn him.
Andrade's not a heel.
Yeah.
He was, and if he is, they'll still cheer him. Look at him. He hangs himself in the ropes like a spider.
Shinsuke's a heel. Shinsuke's definitely a heel.
No one wants to see that again. Enough. Enough of that. No, they've been around the world. Enough.
I mean, Escobar and those guys, and by those guys, I mean, I don't remember their names, but he's with two guys.
Oh, Berto and Angel.
Yeah, there you go. Those guys.
Well,
They're heels.
You've been playing around with Escobar for a while here. Let's heat him up. If he's a guy, let's go. If he's going to be a serious contender, we know he can wrestle.
Yes.
But very mid card. Let's go. Push him.
But he loses to LA Knight tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's the problem. He's also in the King of the Ring tournament. Like, and you can only get one of these people over in the King of the Ring tournament, or at least attempt to get two over, because one wins the SmackDown side, one wins the Raw side, and may the best man win. But yeah, he's losing to LA Knight.
Right. And to that point, if you're going to like pull a loser from the tournament, there's only 2 SmackDowns after tomorrow night before we get to Saudi Arabia. So it's a quick sprint there right now, and then we're going to.
Do they just run back Styles and?
I guess.
I think that's a possibility. That Styles is pissed. He wants his rematch. That's the only way you're going to try to stretch this out. And again, want to make sure it's clear that people are listening. We're not shitting on Cody. We're just talking about what's viable for him as an opponent. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out if the Bloodline is still number one, then what's next? It's a Bloodline Judgment Day, and then what's next as far as heel factions?
Well, and again, if you think that we're taking Cody out again, which we're not, just go to WWE.com, go to the roster page, and look at the SmackDown roster. It's not very good right now in terms of heels that are going to be challenging Cody Rhodes. And really, they used to have a babyface problem. Like when we were talking about this with Roman, it seems like it's now flipped that outside of Judgment Day and Bloodline, the heels are kind of lacking right now in WWE.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to Cody and The Rock. We're also trying to get to Berlin with Gunther and Cody. And whatever Clash of the Castle is. I don't know if Cody's wrestling there. I have no idea if he's going to be defending his title there, but those are a couple of matchups that we're waiting for. Like Gunther and Cody makes sense to me. I think that poster is going to look great. No question.
You have no respect for the brands?
They don't.
Okay.
It's like they're going to figure, because of what Gabe just laid out.
Yeah.
Gabe would be the only guy in the room in WWE in Stanford be like, excuse me, just one thing. Where are the heels? What do you mean?
This guy here is dead. Cross him off.
Yeah. What do you mean, sir? Mr. H?
Sure.
We don't have any heels on this side of the Where are the heels?
Mr. H, is Cedric Alexander supposed to be a contender? What do you want me to do with this?
Theory beats Cena at Mania. He's a big deal. That's his guy.
He's on speed.
Just to clarify, he means the show on X. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, that's
or not.
That's dealer's choice, really. So yeah, it's just I think we can book out some of the bigger shows again. Like even if The Rock isn't available, or if The Rock goes the way we fantasy booked the Bloodline going, and he ends up being the 4th member of Roman and the Usos taking on the new Bloodline or Bloodline 2.0, whatever they call themselves. Like I think Logan Paul, especially with his Cleveland ties / the way he's disowned Cleveland, Paul versus Cody Rhodes would be great at SummerSlam. I think that plays really well.
Yeah, I agree. So Neil says Cody winning the title and now he's essentially in purgatory story-wise. I feel weird saying this. Does Cody need some time off? Do we need to see him every week?
No, we do not. We don't need to see him. We also don't need. He's not going to be at. He's not going to be in Saudi, correct?
I can't confidently say that.
Well, there's no opponent there, so probably no.
He's there every show.
Look, I can't imagine you don't have the biggest champion on the show that makes the most money.
Right.
Did Roman make every Saudi show?
I have to go back and look.
Most of them. He faced Logan Paul. He faced LA Knight.
Well, he can show up because he can do he'll do a fine promo to set up something else. He doesn't need to be in the ring though. He doesn't need the ring. It's Saudi.
He can show up to the KO show. Yeah, that's the problem. Saudi's paying a lot of money.
Yep.
That's fine. I mean, okay, then you want the heavyweight champion? All right, Shinsuke again.
Yeah, again, that's what I'm worried about, man. Like, look at the damn roster. It's depressing. Or just don't. Enjoy your Thursday instead. How about that?
A-Town down, baby.
Speaking of enjoyable things, Brian.
No.
Wait, you're a theory guy now?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he's there.
No.
What just happened?
He's the second biggest heel on the roster. There's a lot to say to that.
What just happened? I'm trying to set up the interview you did, and turns out you're an Austin Theory guy?
The ratings don't lie.
That's
They're
pathetic.
the biggest heel on SmackDown.
That's pathetic.
A-Town down.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here. I don't even want to play this interview now.
This guy's not a heel who interviewed.
He is not a heel, but he is also on the SmackDown roster. And this is his second appearance now on GKW, so I think that means he's officially now a friend of GKW. But earlier this week, Brian had an opportunity to catch up with Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano.
Welcome back. Good Karma Wrestling. Brian Rowitz with you. May 9th, Ticketmaster.com. Tickets are on sale. SummerSlam 2024 coming live from Cleveland. And joining us now to talk about it, he's a Cleveland native himself. It is Johnny Wrestling. Johnny Gargano joins us. Tickets for fans go on sale tomorrow, but from your perspective, how much are you already getting bothered for tickets in Cleveland come SummerSlam?
Oh, boy. So it's bad enough to where my own mother offered to buy her own tickets. She's like, I know a lot of people are going to want tickets from you. When tickets go on sale, like I'm just telling everyone, like we need to buy our own tickets. Like Johnny can't get 100 tickets. He just can't do it. So my own mother is offering to buy her own tickets. So it's that bad at this point.
Well, everyone needs to follow Johnny's mom. Ticketmaster.com, May 9th. Tickets on sale. It'll be live on Peacock August 3rd, but you'll also be there in Cleveland. We'll start with some Cleveland stuff. We air on ESPN Cleveland. You're a big Cleveland sports fan. Your teams are doing well right now, so I'll give you a tough one right here. What happens first, Guardians World Series or Browns Super Bowl?
Oh, I mean, come on. So the Guardians are doing great. We didn't even mention the Cavs. I mean, come on, the Cavs
okay
as well. Cavs
but you've seen them win a title before.
You're still going
You've
well.
Seen that one. They're not as suffering.
I have seen that one. That's true. Good point. I think that the Guardians are very, very young. So given that, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns Super Bowl before the Guardians World Series.
You heard it first here on GKW. For you, I'm sure it's been a whirlwind of a year. You had a WrestleMania moment alongside Tommaso Ciampa. Now that we're about a month removed, how much have you been able to sit back and realize, wow, that really did just happen?
Man, I really wish I could live in the moment. I really wish I'm one of those people that I can just appreciate things as they come, but I don't. I really, really don't. And I don't think it's hit me yet that I wrestled at Wrestle Freakin' Mania. Like, literally, my childhood dream came true. I wrestled at WrestleMania, and that still isn't something that has resonated with me. I think it's something that maybe a year or 2 or 10, or hopefully not 50 years down the line, or maybe 50 if I live that long, great. Then I think I'll sit back and be like, man, you did some pretty amazing things in your career. So it hasn't hit me yet, but hopefully one day I'll sit back and realize, man, you had a pretty cool life.
When it comes to your career, we chatted with you when you were a free agent, and you talked about where you were and eventually was that mentally and physically to just take time off and not be in the ring every single week?
It was a blessing, man. Everything worked out the way it was supposed to. Honestly, like the fact that we were able to take time, like Candace was pregnant, for her to have the baby, for me to be home during that time period and help out as much as I could. Like it literally was a blessing. And for everything to work out the way it did, to come back with Triple H, a guy I have so much respect for, not just as a leader, but as a human being, to work directly side by side with him. That was the reason I was in NXT for so long, because I genuinely enjoy working with that man, and to be able to do it again now in a larger scale, it truly is just something that I could not have I wish for, but I could not have imagined it would have played out the way it did.
Johnny Gargano with us here. Tickets on sale May 9th for SummerSlam in Cleveland. We see it on your YouTube page. You got a vlog sort of having your travels and everything that is being the life of a pro wrestler. How important is it to have that squad with you? The Gargano, or your Gargano, Ciampa, how important is that for you to have that squad?
I'm extremely lucky. Like, not everyone gets, I think that's the hardest part about what we do, is leaving your family. Obviously we don't travel with the baby as much. We don't travel with Quill as much, but to be able to travel with my wife side by side, my best friend, it makes a world of difference. Like for instance, this past week I was in France for like 30 hours. I flew 15 hours, did one show in France, was there like basically a day, and flew 15 hours back, and that was all by myself. So to be able to travel with my wife whenever I can, I'm extremely lucky. Like it's something that makes a world of difference, because people will always tell you, the wrestling, I'll do wrestling for free. It's the travel that I want to get paid for, because the travel is the worst part of it all.
I mean, so we'll go to that on your Twitter, Johnny Gargano. We saw it. It was Gargano versus Styles in France. Photo credit to Bailey, correct? Right? Bailey gets credit for that video.
Yeah,
there?
Bailey took that video. Yes, it was a Bailey video. Bailey sent it to Candace. She said, "How cool, Quill! How cool that his dad's wrestling AJ Styles in France right now," which is pretty wild.
Yes.
You need to go to WWE live events. You never know what's going to happen. You never know if Johnny Gargano is going to fly 15 hours, wrestle one show in France, and AJ Styles. So you got to be there. You never know when that's going to happen.
What was it like in front of that crowd? We saw it as fans watching Backlash this weekend. For you being in the ring, what was that like?
So NXT did a show in France a couple years ago, and the crowd was absolutely insane. One of our favorite crowds of all time. As everyone has watched now, like crowds in France are absolutely so amazing, so unique. And I mentioned the 15 hours of travel. It was well worth it. I would have traveled 30 hours to wrestle in front of that crowd, because that crowd was absolutely electric, absolutely insane. And I promise you, for everyone out there, it makes a world of difference. If you are giving energy, it makes the world of difference in our performance. So please, everyone follow their lead. Be loud, be crazy. I know Cleveland's going to be crazy at SummerSlam. I know that for a fact, because I'm a Cleveland guy, and the Cleveland crowds are amazing. So please follow their lead. Be awesome for us. We really appreciate it.
Cleveland, August 3rd, SummerSlam. Tickets on sale May 9th, Ticketmaster.com. You're a wrestling guy like the rest of us. What's the SummerSlam memory that sticks out for you, that you look back and say, that's the one I'll always remember and hope to, one day top it myself?
So SummerSlam 1996 in the Gund Arena was the very first show I ever went to as a fan. That was the night that I decided I need to become a professional wrestler. I need to do this. I needed to work for WWE one day. And the fact that SummerSlam 28 years later is returning to Cleveland, Ohio, Cleveland Brown Stadium, and I'm an active member of the roster. I have a chance to wrestle at SummerSlam in Cleveland 28 years later, after I decided I wanted to become a wrestler because of SummerSlam in Cleveland. It just feels like destiny, man.
How much have you being in the moment, but how crazy is it to say at the Brown Stadium? It's one thing to say, oh yeah, we're the cat, but you guys are running football stadiums now. So how crazy is that for you as a fan?
Yeah. It's even wilder. So I had my senior prom at Cleveland Brown Stadium. Okay. I had my 30th birthday party at Cleveland Brown Stadium. I have spent countless Sundays in Cleveland Browns Stadium as a Browns fan. And when I was younger, Browns weren't great. Everyone knows this. So I don't know how many fourth quarters I spent in those stands, up in the nosebleed section, just daydreaming of the possibility of a WWE event being in that stadium. And I never thought it would happen. I thought it was like the craziest, wildest dream that would never come true. There's no way WWE would run Cleveland Browns Stadium. Like, it's open air. Like, it's not that huge of a market. Like, all that stuff you hear about it. I didn't just think it would happen. But the fact that it's finally happening is amazing to me. It's literally the dream. My literal dream of wrestling in that stadium could come true. And that's the coolest thing in the world for me.
Senior proms, Johnny Wrestling's 30th birthday, SummerSlam 24, the list of big-time events coming to Brown Stadium. Get your tickets, May 9th, Ticketmaster.com, August 3rd from Cleveland, SummerSlam 24. We look forward to seeing what you do on that show. Johnny Wrestling, thanks so much for the time, and best of luck with everything the rest of the year.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you very much.
Johnny Gargano hanging out with us here on GKW. Again, get those tickets on sale now. SummerSlam in Cleveland. Always good to hear from him.
Yeah.
Hopefully he gets an opportunity. Hopefully he gets
he's been on twice now.
Hopefully he gets that opportunity. He's got a good match coming his way in Cleveland, especially since he is a Cleveland boy. What do we got? News and notes this week, Brian.
All right, let's talk WWE. Some changes in terms of WWE roster this week. Couple people no longer with the company. Jerry the King Lawler revealed with PW Insider his deal has expired. His career has, quote, probably ended. Also, U.S. Olympian Gable Stevenson has been released. The 23-year-old missed out on U.S. Olympic qualifying. He did sign a multi-year deal back in 21. Only televised match, a no contest versus Baron Corbin on an NXT Performance Premium Live event. There we go.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I think Lawler had two different contracts. He had an announcing contract and still had a Legends deal, but he still has the Legends deal, so he'll be associated with WWE.
He says they're all done.
Oh, everything's done.
Yeah, he says they are all done.
Oh, end of an era for the King.
Yep.
He's had some medical difficulties with a stroke that he's recovering from. I would imagine that Lawler would be at Cleveland because, speaking of Browns fans, he is one of the biggest Browns fans from Memphis, but yet loves Cleveland sports. So I've got a feeling that he'll be around SummerSlam one way, shape, or form to come back. So he wasn't announcing anymore, so I kind of get what happened there. With Gable Stevenson, wow, there's a guy that was in our face for a time, and now just no longer part of the company. That's interesting.
What's your favorite Gable memory?
What was that, a pay-per-view he's in? He did like one thing.
Yep.
Oh, remember that?
Was that in Saudi?
That one time?
Yeah, one time?
Believe so, yes. I mean, they put him out there like
if you say so, I'll believe you.
Before he was training, as a matter of fact.
Right. And then they somehow put him out there for Baron Corbin on an NXT show. Obviously, something didn't connect there, but they had high hopes going into it.
Yeah, his first appearance was April 2022, WrestleMania 38, Night 1. He was introduced by Stephanie McMahon. And just did not work out.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. Basically nothing out of the last 2 years.
It was a prolonged hiatus for us.
Yeah.
Now no longer part of the company.
Also, no longer will be a part of the Olympics this year because that qualifying window is closed. So he missed out on that while chasing this dream.
So now he's just punching clouds.
Yep. Elsewhere in the WWE world.
So that means AEW. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. But can he wrestle? Do we know if he can wrestle?
Stevenson versus Ogogo coming to a pay-per-view near you.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The WWE has
the wrestler versus the boxer.
An extended rights deal with NBC Universal. That means Raw will remain on USA through the end of the year. They start on Netflix in January. SmackDown also moving to USA in a few months.
Now, let's point this out, guys. So we're going to see at some point in August, NXT, SmackDown, and Raw all on the USA Network. Remember, NXT's moving to CW in September?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds right.
So that's going to be interesting. And by the way, it's September. USA could use a lot of wrestling, some kind of numbers, right, against the NFL. So we always thought there was going to be some deal made. $25 million, though, just for the extension. Wow.
I mean, it made the most sense in the world, like, because they were already putting SmackDown there. It's not like they ended the relationship. The relationship was continuing. It only made sense to continue it to the end of the year till the Netflix deal kicks in.
Boy, that the Netflix, they're on their way, man. You heard the Boomer Esiason story from this week from WFAN. Yep. You know, the possibility of Netflix and the NFL in bed with one another on Christmas Day. They're going to try to own the Christmas Day game. Oh, my God. So that WWE.
The Brady roast was just there live. Like, they're messing with live again.
They're taking over.
We talked a lot about WWE heading to Saudi Arabia. Well, apparently later this month, an enhancement to the existing agreement will be announced. There are rumors that the Saudi government want either a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania.
I can see a Rumble. I can't see a Mania. I can't see them doing 2 nights back-to-back there when the way that Nick Khan has kind of talked about it, in addition to the Saudi shows, having some of these other shows, you know, that they have created overseas or doing Backlash overseas, like the lesser than premium live events, doing those internationally, but wanting to keep the big ones in North America. I have a hard time, again, the Saudis are going to pay what they're going to pay. I have a hard time seeing Mania, the WWE giving up a Mania. I could see them doing a Rumble.
Everybody's got a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you that if there's something likely to happen, it would be the Royal Rumble, the greatest Royal Rumble, which they've done that before, I believe.
Yeah.
Shout out to Titus.
Like, that number, the higher it gets, I don't know how they say no to it. And, like, it just sucks for the rest of the wrestling world. Like, as much as I enjoy everything else around WrestleMania, I don't think they're running indie shows in Saudi if that where Mania ends up.
No, but Uganda, yes, is a good spot.
Oh, yeah, that's Soft Ground Wrestling. Shout out to them.
You know, it's funny. It's funny. I don't know if this is part of your news and notes, Brian, but we saw a number, I think 24 hours ago, that as far as people, you know, logging on and subscribing and watching that event, it's one of the lowest events, Backlash.
So one of the lowest, like, actual pay-per-view orders. Like, that doesn't actually track the Peacock side of things. So if you're still at home ordering through your cable provider, it's one of the lowest numbers ever in terms of that. But I don't know if you blame that on the pay-per-view or just blame that on people who don't order pay-per-views anymore.
I don't know. I just think that, and by the way, it's a good business model because they're like, hey, we got Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we got to get to France, though.
Yes.
Think about $300 a ticket. That's why the highest grossing gate ever. $300 a ticket for everybody.
Oh, it makes
only 11,000 people were there in that arena.
Oh yeah, but it makes a ton of sense again to do it this way because these lesser than pay-per-views are more or less glorified house shows. Yes, a title change may happen here or there, like we saw the women's tag team titles end up changing hands as expected. But like, if you really want to watch it. In today's world, they know you're, okay, maybe I won't watch it live, but, I got nothing going on Sunday. Let's fire up Backlash. You know, like, they're completely fine with you not watching those events live. Now, they still want their big ones, right? And WrestleMania is just such a large part of pop culture now. Like WrestleMania becomes a legitimate thing. Like, ESPN Radio did a WrestleMania preview show this year. Like, wrestling is really gathering a lot of momentum, which is why I have a hard time picturing WWE giving up, even if the number gets astronomical, a WrestleMania to Saudi Arabia, because the timing would just be weird. The Royal Rumble, on the other hand, I think they'd be willing to do that because there's more to WrestleMania than just here's X amount of dollars from the Saudi government. Like, there's still more money that can be made elsewhere and more publicity elsewhere by doing it the way they do it here in the States.
Yeah, I heard about that ESPN Radio WrestleMania show. Huh. Interesting.
I would say everything you're saying makes sense, but then there's still WWE logic, and as zeros get added.
Well, but look, it's not even WWE logic; it's TKO logic. Then
right.
At that point, right? Like it's out of the hands of Triple H. It's out of the hands of Nick Khan. Ultimately, it goes to Ari Emanuel, who has a good relationship with the Saudis, with UFC as well.
Well, that's it. So if we use the UFC business model, they've had shows over there, but I guess they don't have that singular marquee event.
Right.
But is WrestleMania more appealing than any big UFC show?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because all of their shows is UFC and the number.
Yeah, number. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the only time UFC gets big is when they hit the round ones, like 100. Like when Brock came back for UFC 200. I know they've got 300 coming up. When they hit those, every 100 shows, that's when they get big. But they're still not doing those shows in stadiums the way they do WrestleMania.
Right. That's fair. Finally, news and notes, some more wrestling coming to JHood's neck of the woods this weekend. MLW Azteca Lucha, Saturday at Cicero Stadium in Chicago and on Triller TV. We caught up with the voice of MLW, Joe Dombrowski. Here's a little bit of what you can expect from MLW.
Quite some time, because we have seen over the past number of years a very heavy Lucha Libre influence in Major League Wrestling. And of course, if you don't know, if you're new to MLW, it's all about hybrid fighting. Styles make fights, right? You get Lucha Libre, you get Japanese style, you get hardcore, you get technical, catch, MMA, a little bit of everything, kind of like the primitive UFC, as far as let's have every style fight it out and see who reigns supreme. And we have seen a couple of, let's say, major power brokers involved in management and managerial capacities in MLW, namely Cesar Duran, who many people remember as the proprietor of Lucha Underground back when that was on El Rey Network, and Selena De La Renta, who has represented Promociones Dorado for so many years. And now we're at a point where both are in the same company at the same time, and there can only be one alpha, right? And they all want power, and they all want money, and they all want to be controlling that lucha pipeline from Mexico to the United States. So Cesar has his representatives, Selena has her representatives, and they're going to battle it out in Chicago in front of a sold-out crowd, and we're going to find out who truly is the best talent manager, the best talent agent, and who wields the true power of Lucha Libre and Major League Wrestling. And there's honestly not a better city to do it in the U.S. than Chicago.
You can check out that entire interview with Joe Dombrowski on our YouTube page. Had a great conversation with him, kind of getting ready for that show in Chicago, MLW Azteca Lucha in Cicero. You can also check it out, Triller TV. Check out the entire interview, youtube.com/@GoodKarmaWrestling.
You know that Joe's a professional because it's like one of the first times we had an interview where he's got the cans on, the headset with the mic. How about that? How about that for an interview? He had the cans on.
He meant business, talking MLW.
Outstanding. I enjoyed that. Very good.
You're going to be there on Saturday too, right? You're going to swing by?
Hey, man, I am part of Good Karma Wrestling. We have to cover the big events. Oh, sure.
You and Matt Riddle hanging out again.
Whatever you need, Gabe, I'm there for it.
I mean, Brian's going to be very jealous, but, somebody's got to do it.
Very interesting, MLW. It's an interesting company because they won, or at least they had a settlement with WWE. So I like to see where they're going in the future with their, with their streaming deal. I mean, I think Triller TV is great, but I just wonder what's next for them.
And I guess one more news and note. I don't think we actually mentioned it. I feel like it happened forever ago. WrestleMania 41, Las Vegas. Book your tickets now.
Yes.
So this is interesting to me.
We're going.
Yeah.
May have already booked a room.
The Vegas part, of course he did. Of course he did.
I'm on the couch.
The Vegas, I'll take the floor. I don't care. Just throw me a pillow. The Vegas thing isn't the interesting part to me. The later date is the interesting part to me because it was already starting to drag a little bit between the Rumble and Mania. And now they're talking about, okay, we're doing Mania in the middle of April. They're talking about wanting to push that until the first weekend in May. Like, that's a long gap, and that's a big bridge that you've got to build between winning the Royal Rumble and then main eventing WrestleMania. That's going to be something I think that's really going to push Triple H and his creative team to their limits.
Well, the WWE is starting to be the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Easter Sunday. Here's WrestleMania. Wow. How about that?
Literally seeing comments like, oh, I wonder if they knew it was Easter. Yes, they knew. They don't give a damn.
Couldn't care less. I think it's fascinating. And for Gabe and I, a little disappointed. Should have been in the Midwest. Would have been nice to be in Minneapolis. Minneapolis, for the second time in a row, they fumbled the ball. So now it's Vegas. Don't be surprised if UFC has some influence around there, too. They can do a super card That could very well happen too that weekend. So I kind of think that we should go. I think that should be interesting. Las Vegas, entertainment capital of the world. Should have been in Minneapolis, but
It's Vegas.
Yeah.
We'll do it in the big Roomba and have a good time.
That's right.
What'd you guys have for your matches of the week?
Well, it starts with Backlash, right, Gabe?
Oh yeah, the kickoff match, Bloodline versus KO and Orton. I couldn't believe that they got like 40, 45 minutes. Like they got a long time for that match, and it was spectacular. I thought it was a great tone setter. Of course, the crowd being as hot as they were certainly helped. But I had Bloodline versus KO and Orton, and then you have the arrival of a new Bloodline member helping putting them over. So that was a good time. I enjoyed that to kick things off in France.
More Polynesian wrestlers are coming. More are coming. I've been saying this for months, and now it's happened, right? Now we got Gorillas of Destiny. So from the beginning to the end, right? From the beginning with the, hitting the loop button for the third time on Randy Orton's music. That was fantastic. I thought that Cody and AJ delivered as well for Backlash. Mm-hmm. We knew, right? Two veterans. As Michael Cole told us, two former leaders of the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
Whoa. What?
I've never seen them on WWE programming.
He just said, what on television?
Whoa.
Michael, this is not a house show. This is not for WWF home video. We're watching.
Amazing. And Copeland against Brody King on AEW Dynamite from Edmonton. Fantastic.
Agree with all those. The Sheamus versus Gunther on Monday.
See, so for Monday, I had Ricochet versus
on his back.
Again, that was just meaty men slapping meat. That was just a meat fest. But I really enjoyed, despite it being not safe for work because of the lack of knee pads. But Ricochet versus Dragunov was spectacular.
I agree with that. I also enjoyed Monday EO versus Natty.
EO versus Natty, yes. Yeah. Very, very good matchup. Natty Neidhart, that's your friend, by the way. Is that your buddy?
Yep. Check her out. Good Karma Wrestling. Interviewed her. She says she wants to wrestle more. I know, there's talk about her contract and what it might be, but I feel like these last couple of weeks, they've been sort of just letting her go out there and show what she can do in the ring.
I think a New Japan run's coming for Natty. Just
please.
Do what Nemeth's doing. Just take your stuff on the road. You want to prove yourself outside WWE, you've done enough.
Yep.
Agreed. And she can cook in the ring, man. Like, she's always been able to cook in the ring. Like, just go put on bangers all over the world, and she'd be spectacular. She's not getting featured enough.
Right, and then I feel like they'd let her back in 5 to 10 years, and she can do the ambassador stuff down the line.
Oh, without a doubt.
Burgers after burgers after burgers. No, you said bangers. I'm sorry.
That's so it was, again, a wild world where we had more WWE matches to consume than AEW matches. I don't know what to do. It was
to the Copeland Brody King, though, by the way. 1, more House of Black always, and 2, from a Copeland standpoint, he mentioned on Swerve's podcast a couple weeks ago, his new thing right now is every match he's trying a move he's never tried before. So whenever we're watching Cope matches, try and find what that move is. That's what he's doing.
Allowed to do it now in AEW. Couldn't do it in WWE.
He's like, I've never tried this before. I'm going to try that tonight. That's his new goal, is to try at least one of those every single match.
Good.
And he's wrestling quite a bit, so.
Right.
When you wrestle once a week, you can try new things.
Right.
Sure.
It was a fun week of professional wrestling, and I guarantee it's going to continue to be fun. I'm looking forward to SmackDown. I'm looking forward to it all. And, of course, you can catch us up. Subscribe, youtube.com/@GoodKarmaWrestling. Check out all our past videos. Check out all of our interviews. And, of course, check us out each and every Thursday right here.